See up here, there is a picture of A to B. And I just want to hear, like, when you look at this, A to B, what do you think about? What comes to your mind?
What's A and what's B? You
Yeah.
know, I think that's like one of the things. And then it's like, it's funny because I always like, you'll think back to like algebra. And I'm like, so what does A need to get to B? You know, like what's the big difference between the two? And definitely whether or not the distance you drew is relative.
Sure. Your mind's so brilliant. You're like, process, what's the distance and all that. But no, this is good because the picture is you have a starting point and you have a proposed ending point, and then you have all this middle ground. Like, what are you going to do? So the cool thing is this is A. I love thinking about just A and B because it's not defined, but you're thinking about it. Okay, you have A, you have B. What is that? Where am I going? What's happening here? And so I want you to have this picture of you're on a journey. Coaching, life is all a journey. So this is a journey that you're going on with this, but also as you're thinking about your life, it's more of a journey as well. So, you know, we've talked about this before, but I really want to reiterate this because I think this is important. I also want to hear some of your thoughts because there are questions we're constantly asking ourselves every single day. Some questions are good, some questions are bad, some questions are toxic. And the challenge with it, a lot of these questions that we are asking, no one knows because we just keep it in our heads all day long. So there's these questions that are going on in our head that are influencing how we're living our day to day, but no one knows them. And so I want to give a framework of questions to ask that are good for us, because these are the questions that will push us forward, opposed questions that are constantly dragging us down and move us in the wrong direction. So I want to start here, right? So when you think about this space right here, I think a big question people are asking is, where do I fit in? Now, this isn't always this external thing. You're not going to go to your friends or like, where do I fit in here? But it is a question when people are in a room with a lot of people, they're asking this question, where do I fit in? Who are my people? Who should I be talking to? Who should I engage with? So when you see this question, does that resonate with you? How does that connect with you?
It does. And it's heavy. I don't know why. Like I look at that question, and it's heavy. You know, because I do think that I want to fit in, but then there's also like all the work I've done on myself to get to this point, and it's like, what is in? You know, what am I know I'm a square peg and I'm not going to find a round hole, you know, but like, it's heavy. It's a heavy question, man. It's really hard to answer too.
And it's a question a lot of people are asking. I mean, you don't even have to listen to people. You just have to watch people in a room. They're just trying to find, where do I go? What do I do? Should I talk this way? Should I talk that way? Should I engage this way? Would this person find this funny? I kind of want to be around them. Would they want to hang out with me? I mean, it's stuff that is going on in people's mind, which is why some people play this out before they even go out, which gives them anxiety and makes them not want to go out at all. Right? So these are big questions people are asking themselves. And I think it's one of the things to be aware, because this is like a starting point for a lot of people. They're thinking about where they fit in. But as you kind of move forward and you start processing through life a little bit more, another question is like, what's popular? It's like people actually thinking through, what is popular? What's out there? You know, what should I be doing? So this is life people are living now. We have apps, we have television, we have all these things of people who are telling us. We don't have to go searching for it very far. You know, in the past there was like the internet, so you have to intentionally go and look. Maybe not everybody watch TV, so they'll get a commercial here and there. Now you can stay in your house all day and be inundated with ads and everything there is, and people who are telling you what's popular. Whether it's popular or not, you're hearing about it. So you being in the tech world and understanding that, like, what are your thoughts about this? Like, do you feel overwhelmed with all the things that are coming your way and feeling that maybe you have to do all of them, or you should buy everything, or how do you navigate that?
Yeah, this one's like a mind melter, you know? Because, like, if I thought about it from like a provider perspective, right? So if I'm building tech, and forget about tech, just any business, but like, do you look for a low quantity, high quality market, or do you try to appeal to the most diverse population of people that we've ever had in the history of the world, who all have access to so much information that confuses the hell out of them about what way the herd is even going, you know? And now it's so cool to be walking the other way, and you just have everybody going all over the place. I think this is part of what drives so much of that anxiety and insecurity with people. It's like there's not even a direction that the majority is going in. And I think tech has played a huge part in making that so difficult for everybody, because everybody knows everything. You know, there's almost no qualifications to who is able to learn what. It's such a weird concept, but I think about when I see this too, like what's popular from a consumer perspective versus a provider too. Like I wear, and so just like as we're on here, like I will look like I'm wearing the exact same thing every single day of our sessions. So we're having this in multiple days. It's not just one long session. I'm gonna wear the same thing, because that's a stressful aspect. Like I don't want to draw attention to me in a good way or a bad way. I don't want to appear like I'm trying to be fashion forward or that I don't give a shit. I just want to be not noticed, right? Rather, I actually want people to hear what I have to say, versus, which in and of itself is now an image and a type of person that everybody notices as the person is trying to be like that.
Is there something that drove you in that direction? Because that seemed very thought out, and you've thought through that. Have you experienced it in the opposite way and saying, I don't want that? Or how did you come about thinking that way?
Have you heard like my arrogant Instagram experience? Like not arrogant. So I had this moment of time where I was very public on social media. And right now I have every color suit you could imagine. I used to have a ridiculous watch collection because I got to a point where I didn't want people to see me working out in the same outfit. I was traveling to India for work with 3 suitcases, one for shoes, one for work gear, one for workout stuff. Like it got to a point where when you have the opportunity to reflect on that and now trying to be a minimal person, it was disgusting, you know? But it's like you get so wrapped up in the stupid aspect of like, well, you don't want people to see you wearing the same watch or wearing the same suit or wearing the same clothes. Like, how ridiculous. So I just swung that pendulum the complete opposite way. And now it's like, maybe I'll wear a different set of slides.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was actually something like I had tried so hard to be colorful and never have the same outfit on and always in the public spotlight. And now it's also a growth I think it was a growth aspect of me too, where I was like, and it's so funny, right? And this is like the way too deep in craziness in my head is, as much as I want to say it's growth, it's also like now I'm trying so hard to not have any personality show in how I appear. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's popular.
I appreciate you sharing, because right or wrong, right? We're not here to find what is right, what's wrong. People are thinking this way. And I think for some people, they've never really expressed that. And so they might hear this and they're like, man, that's how my head is working. And I think that's a starting place to understand, how am I thinking through these things? Instead of ignoring it, it's like, let's really identify and start thinking through that. And so you have this picture of like, okay, your day to day, here's where I'm at, where do I fit in, who are my people? You're looking outwardly all the time to see, okay, what's popular out there? You know, what should I do? Oh, this new thing came out. Should I buy it? Oh, well, my friend bought it, so I should buy it too. And there's like that mindset that's constantly happening. And then there's another where we think about often, because people are thinking about their future, their families, finances, all of that. What do I want to do with my life? Now, you in your 30s, I'm curious to hear, how was it like in your 20s and how have you navigated that? Now you're in kind of an entrepreneurial space. So What was that like for you, and how does this still impact you today?
It's funny. Like, at one point, I thought this would just be like an easy exam that I had to take today, and just let me think out loud. I always knew that it would have been like owning my own business and being my own boss, and it was again mostly driven by like trying to get the chip off my shoulder and prove people in my life at that point wrong and be my own person and live my own life. But I started out with a car washing business, and it was entrepreneurial. And even with SV Technology, my next business I started in the email marketing space. After that, I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm not cut out for this shit. Like, I'm a great number two, like, and then you work in that number two space for a while, and you work for other people for a while, and you have a couple of those opportunities where you're not the decision maker and you have to execute orders, and it's like this almost conditioning over the years where now I'm back to, and you see the seat I'm trying to sit in too. It's like, I really don't want to be the number one, but I do want to teach everybody what I've learned about how to build and scale. But it's back to like, what do I want to do with my life? It's how can I add as much value as I possibly can without killing myself in the process? And I think it's really a spiritual question for me too, because I don't know who I'm trying to be per se, but it's weird because like I feel like growing up, you're always wondering like, at some point, will people know my name like they know Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk? And it's like, I never thought to myself like I was able to be that person, and now I feel like I'm educated enough where I would never want to be that person, but I'm so impressed with what they've been able to do. And I think that's where there's definitely a lot of influences that we know about that I'm inspired by, I don't know if I answered your question, but
That's cool. That's fine. You headed in that direction, and when I listen to you, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm hearing a number one type vision with a fight to be a number two.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not, you're not wrong. It's I think a lot of it too is like I just heavy is the head that wears the crown. Like it's hard. It's hard being in the spotlight, and when we get to like the skills component, like, and I've had the opportunity to speak in front of tens of thousands of people before, like I don't like it. I never see it for myself, but then it's like, well, how am I going to inspire a lot of people? Well, I'll make a YouTube channel, like, so how is it that I can kind of work through the process and work on the things that I'm not comfortable with? And there's also absolutely the person that I've buried deep in my soul of like, you're not fucking worthy. Like that's not for you. You will serve and you will work for others. And I think that's something that I just like, I almost talk myself out of with affirmations on a daily basis,
Yeah.
Like you can be that person. You see the types of people, and I won't name names, but there's people in the media, in the spotlight, managing huge amounts of responsibility that I know I can perform at those levels. But it's also like not in a way to spite them, but also why would I cap myself at anything less?
I love this. What's interesting is, if you are asking yourself, if these questions are dominating in your head more, this is going to be a battle for the rest of your life. But if you shift the questions you're asking and ask those questions more and more and more, it may start to be easier for you to see what being a number one looks like now with a different change in perspective. So this one is all outsourced. I mean, we have to look outward to find it all, and that's why it's so hard. What's this person doing? It's exhausting because they're constantly changing. We're changing, and it's almost a shift. And I know this is how you're thinking more, and I want you to just own this and this mentality of for whatever I'm going to do in the future, it's always going to be an inward work. I am going to figure it out by understanding myself more and more and more and more, getting comfortable in my own skin, understanding what I'm capable of, and running in that direction. Because that's something no one can take away from you. Yeah. They can take away the outside stuff, but the stuff that you get inwardly, no one can take that away. And it's a beautiful thing to really dive into that. People can strip this away in a second. If you put our identity in something that was popular a year ago and it's not popular anymore, then you feel like you have to find something else to scrummage around. You start asking yourself bigger questions, and that's what we're going to discuss. I think it's going to be even a bigger game changer for you. And what I want you to be able to do, and part of this process in coaching, I don't want you just to ask yourself these questions. I want you to own it, to believe it, and to buy into it in such a way it starts to move you in your day to day. So first question being, who are you? We're going to discuss this more. Second question being, who are you becoming? And third question being, who do you want to be? And I love kind of like this arrow picture here, and I'll tell you why. I feel like we all kind of resonate with something a little bit more. And I want everybody to see that you're not just thinking about one, you're thinking about all of it. And part of our life journey is to really understanding who we are, who we're becoming in the process, and who we want to be, and see how all of them really are working together. So when you see these three questions, I know we talked about this before in your podcast, and so I know you even thought through it more. So I'm curious to hear what happens in you as you're thinking through these questions. What are some things some words, some phrases, what comes to your mind?
So on the who I am, and I'll be like the negative Ned, like I am impatient. I tend to sometimes lack understanding. I'm a horrible listener at times. And in terms of like my physical health, I am ignorant and arrogant and just out of touch. I really am, and I think that's something that has taken a lot of reflection. I think being honest has allowed me to figure out some of the answers, or at least what I think is a path that I should be pursuing to go forward, because I hate that about myself. I hate all those things about myself. And I think as I call it like streaming consciousness, like this is the business hat. Like when I'm doing business or when I'm thinking about it and not reacting, if I'm impulsive, I'm all those things. But when I'm on, I know how to behave. I know how to get the best out of the people I work with. I know how to get the best out of my family. I know how to treat people, but it's when I'm thinking about something else that I'm not listening to somebody that's having a heartfelt conversation with me. It's being selfish instead of not being interested in what somebody else is saying. It's one of the most disrespectful things I think I do in my life and it's not in a dismissive or intentional way, but it certainly isn't giving them the time and attention that they deserve. And I think all the things I mentioned kind of wrap into like some of those conversations that I have. And a lot of it is just my inability to be focused on where I am right now.
This is good. I noticed when you started talking about even just who you are, you went straight to the negative. Is that where your mind typically goes as you're thinking through that question?
Yeah, and like I wrote down a note in here too, because it's like, I think so as I've been working through this by myself in solitude, like I am 100% still thinking about the first questions you had up, and it's like by thinking about those questions, I feel like there's a weird part of me that's like so intentionally trying to do what I've been programmed to know, like who I am is actually a pre-written book of the world in front of us. Like to really find an authentic version of myself, like it's fucking hard, it's flopping hard. I'm gonna cut all this out, but it's a really difficult thing. And I think why I even think about it to that extent, I think it's like, it brings me back to this conversation I used to have with a kid I was mentoring. It was like, I want to do charity work. I'm like, you ever actually gone out and picked up trash? It sucks. It's not fun. Not a great use of your time. Like that's the reality of going and doing some charity work and picking up trash. You ever served soup at a soup kitchen? It's one of the most heartbreaking things that you'll ever do in your life. Like, is that really what you want to be doing? Does it make you feel good? Like, there's a version of it where you feel good about what you did, but it doesn't feel good doing it. Bad examples, but like it's the truth, right? At least it's one of my truths. And so it's like, how can you get to a point where you're doing charity and philanthropy that's avoiding there needing to be a soup kitchen or needing to be trash on the ground for someone to pick up? Like, those are the types of things where it's like really getting to the root of things. And that's where I'm at with my journey of who I want to be, is regardless of what I've seen and the lives that these people live and the houses they have or the cars they drive or how many jobs they're able to create, like, what really is important to me, trying to weave through all the baggage that I have in my life of things I didn't have growing up or things that I think I want, is hard.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks for sharing that, man. You know, with the questions you mentioned earlier, how you're still thinking about that. And a challenge with those questions is it's easier to avoid and escape your gaps when you're asking those questions because you're not looking inward at all. So you're only looking outward, which is why a lot of people are not self-aware, because they're looking outward to find stuff and they're not really doing the work inwardly, so they don't know themselves. But when you start asking these questions, it's scary because it exposes your gaps. And people don't want to expose their gaps because it makes them more anxious and it shows them where they're not. But by you asking more these questions more and more and more, you don't see your gaps as a bad thing. You see it as something you can work on, having a growth mindset and moving forward. And so that's what I want to see shift with you more and more, but also shifting from just, I look at these questions, I think about all my gaps and it goes very, very negative, to I'm aware of my gaps. I'm not going to work on them all at one time, but I will slowly start working on them. But I'm also aware of all the things that are going great and the things I'm doing well. And I'm going to utilize that to help me get momentum to keep going forward. Right? So these are questions we will come back to, we'll work on, and we're going to spend a lot of time here. But I want you to I want to brand this in your mind of you asking yourself more often, man, who am I? Like, what are things that are in me, things that I'm excited about, things that I'm doing, things that I'm working on? Who am I becoming? Do I like who I'm becoming? What are the things that I'm working on currently right now? And who do I want to be? How is that being expressed in my life now? Now, at first, it could feel overwhelming because those are big questions, but I'm going to help you kind of break it down in such a way where it's a little bit more digestible. And that's what we're going to do with this gigantic question of who you are in your 32 years, right?